What's up, everybody? This is John with CompTIA, and today we're going to be doing some hardware diagnostic questions that you will find on A+ Core 1. We're not going to waste any time. Let's get straight into it. Question number 1. What is the purpose of memtest 86? Think about it for a moment. As the name suggests, the answer would be A. Test memory for errors. This is a diagnostic tool that is used specifically for memory or RAM in your computer to see if there's anything going on in that realm. Let's move forward. Question number 2. A computer boots, but the display shows artifacts and distorted images. What is likely failing? Think about this for a moment. Okay, and the answer would be B, the graphics card. This would be the most likely culprit as to why you're seeing distorted images on your display. For the A+ Core 1, it's very, very important that you know which symptoms occur when certain parts are failing. Very important to memorize. Regardless, let's move forward. Question number 3. A computer randomly shuts down during intensive tasks. What is the most likely cause? Think about it for a moment. Okay, and the answer would be D, overheating. If the computer is handling very intensive tasks and the temperature starts to go up, that's when things start to turn off in your system. So D is the correct answer for this question. Let's move on. Question number 4. Smart data on a hard drive shows reallocated sector count of 150 and a pending sector count of 12. The drive has no current errors and the user reports no problems. What should the technician do? This one's a little bit more nuanced. Think about it for a moment. All right. And the answer would be B. Immediately backup data and plan drive replacement. Because of the high reallocated and pending sector counts, this indicates the drive is potentially degrading, even if it's still functioning normally. The number one thing for the technician to do in this moment is simply back up the data and replace before
Question
failure
number
occurs.
5.
A computer experiences frequent blue screens. What should be checked first? Think about it for a moment. And the answer to question 5 would be C, RAM and drivers. These would be the most likely culprits when it comes to blue screens on a computer, either faulty RAM or incompatible, outdated, corrupted drivers on your computer. Let's move on. Question number 6. Which component failure would cause a computer to power on but not complete post? Think about it for a moment. Okay, and the most likely culprit for this would be D, either the CPU or the motherboard. Post requires the CPU or the motherboard to function properly in order for post to complete on startup. So these two would be the most likely culprits for this problem. Question number 7. What does smart technology monitor? And as you might have guessed from the previous question, smart technology monitors hard drive health. SMART, which stands for self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology, is solely based on the health of the hard drive, and it helps to predict failures before they occur. Question number 8. A hard drive makes clicking sounds. What does this typically indicate? Think about it for a moment. And of course, the answer would be B, mechanical failure. Of course, software corruption would not make sense in this context. Normal operation, definitely not, because you're hearing a clicking, of course. And it would not be C because, of course, the power supply is its own unique part. So we get B as our answer for this question. Question number 9. What is the purpose of a loopback adapter? Okay, and the answer would be A, to test network ports. A loopback adapter solely makes a closed loop and it just verifies reception and connectivity in a network. Let's move on. Question number 10. A computer fan runs constantly at high speed. What is the likely cause? And the answer in this case would be C, high CPU temperature. If your computer's running hot, it's going to try and kick on those fans to cool everything down. But when it's running constantly high, it's not a good thing. So that's how we get to this answer here. Let's move forward. A desktop PC randomly restarts under heavy CPU and GPU load but runs stably at idle. There are no BSOD errors recorded. CPU and GPU temperatures are within normal range. What is the most likely cause? Think about this for a second. And the answer would be A. Insufficient PSU wattage causing voltage drop under load. When there's a high demand for power within the system and the PSU cannot keep up, it is possible that a computer will randomly turn off or restart. Let's move forward. Question number 12. Which symptom indicates motherboard failure? All right, and the answer would be D. No power, no post, or random lockups. Post, of course, is dependent on the motherboard functioning properly. If no other part is getting power, that means the motherboard might be the culprit. And if there's any instability or random lockups in the system, this could also point a finger towards the motherboard being the cause. Let's move on. Question number 13. A user's computer powers on, all fans spin, LEDs light up, but there is no post beep, no display output, and no keyboard activity detected. The technician resets RAM and the GPU, but the issue persists. What should be tested next? Think about it for a moment. Okay, and the answer would be D. Perform a bare bones post test. Because the post did not occur, that means that in the core of the hardware, there is something going on that is preventing the post from happening. That would most likely be a faulty CPU or motherboard. So that's why we do a bare bones post test when we see these symptoms occur. Let's move on. Question number 14. A computer boots to BIOS but won't boot to the operating system. What is likely the problem here? Think about this for a second. All right, and the answer would be B. The operating system needs to come from somewhere, and that source would be the hard drive if there's something going on with that, or the boot configuration that could cause a computer to boot to BIOS but not to the operating system. Let's move on. Question number 15. What is the first step in troubleshooting a computer that won't power on? Think about this for a moment. All right, and this one seems very straightforward because it is. The answer would be A. Make sure your cables are plugged in. Easy enough. Let's move on. Question number 16. A computer experiences intermittent lockups. What hardware component should be suspected? And the answer in this case would be D. This question was also kind of a give me. Of course, it would not be the optical drive, the sound card, or the network card. It would be something more in the heart of the hardware of your computer. So we get to the answer D, RAM or CPU. Although it's important to note, sometimes CompTIA will put silly questions like this on the test to kind of try and throw you off, but just stay true to your guns and you will do okay with these type of questions. Regardless, let's move on to question number 17. A technician is troubleshooting a system where a memtest 86 passes with both RAM sticks installed together, but the system BSODs intermittently under Windows. What should the technician try next? Think about this for a second. All right, and the answer would be B. Test each RAM stick individually in the system under Windows load, then check for XMP instability. For those of you who don't know, XMP stands for Extreme Memory Profile. It's a technology that lets you enable pre-configured RAM overclock settings in the BIOS so your memory runs at its rated speed instead of the default lower speed, regardless on most systems. Let's move on. Question number 18. A computer fails to boot and displays no video output. What is the most likely cause? Think about this for a second. All right. And the answer in this case would be C. RAM would be the number one culprit with these symptoms, as RAM failure commonly causes no boot or no video symptoms because the system cannot start without functional RAM to begin with. Regardless, let's move on. Question number 19. Which tool is best for testing power supply voltage outputs? Think about this for a second. All right. And the answer would be B, the multimeter. Once again, for A plus Core 1, there's a variety of tools you need to memorize what they are, what they do, what application they're used for. We have a guide on our website for A plus Core 1 that goes over everything you need to memorize for the test if you're interested in taking a look at that. But regardless, very, very important to know what these tools are used for. Question number 20. A computer produces no display, but the power LED is on. What should be checked? Think about it for a moment. And as we just saw previously, not too long ago, when there's no display, a likely culprit would be RAM or graphics connections in this case. Let's move on. Question number 21. Which diagnostic tool provides detailed information about system hardware? And the answer would be A, system information. Another thing to throw out there for A plus Core 1, there's a variety of different diagnostic tools within your system that's very helpful to know what they do and what application they're used for. Let's move on to the next question. Question 22. What does a continuous beep pattern in post typically indicate? All right. And the answer to this question would be B. Most likely, it is indicating a RAM problem in your system. It could either mean that the RAM is not seated properly, the RAM is simply not functional, things of this nature. Question number 23. What does a burning smell from a computer typically indicate? Okay, and as common sense would lead us to believe, the answer would be A, an electrical component failure. Of course, there's many corners of life where this would be the same exact advice, so this one's pretty straightforward. Question number 24. What does thermal throttling do when a CPU overheats? Think about it for a moment. Okay, and the answer would be C, reduce the CPU speed, reduce the demand going to the CPU to help the temperature cool down when it detects overheating. Let's move on to question number 25. Which Windows tool can help check for hardware conflicts? All right, and the answer to this question would be B, device manager. Like I said before, there are certain diagnostic tools on the computer itself that you need to know what they are used for, so on and so forth. Very, very important for A plus Core 1. Question number 26. After replacing a CMOS battery, the technician confirms it is correctly seated and measures 3.1 volts across it with a multimeter. The system still reverts BIOS settings after shutdown. What is the next most likely cause? Think about this one for a moment. All right, and the answer to this question would be B. The motherboard has a faulty solder joint or trace near the CMOS circuit. Because we know for a fact that the battery is already seated properly, this would be the next most likely culprit in this exact situation. You will see questions just like this on the A plus Core 1, so be prepared for that when you go to take your test. Question number 27. A computer's USB ports stop working. What should be checked first? Think about this for a moment. And the first thing we check in this situation would be A, the device manager for USB controller issues. A likely culprit could always be your drivers being outdated or incompatible with the parts in your system. So the first thing we do is we just check device manager before we open anything up as far as the computer itself. Question number 28. Which tool can test network cable continuity? And this one is a little bit more straightforward. The answer would be C, the cable tester for testing network cables. Very straightforward, very easy to remember. Question number 29. What does a postcard help diagnose? All right, and as we know, POST stands for Power On Self-Test, so the answer would be the boot process problems. It helps diagnose issues from when the computer starts to help a technician find out more so what is going on with the hardware that is preventing the computer from turning on. All right, guys, this is our last question for this video. Which symptom indicates a failing power supply? Think about it for 3 seconds. And the answer would be C, random reboots and shutdowns. These are very common symptoms when you have a bad power supply unit that cannot handle the demand for power in your computer. Alright guys, so that's going to conclude our video for today on hardware troubleshooting. Once again guys, you can come to CompTIA.io. You can go through these exact questions and more for free on our website. All you have to do is make an account. For those of you that are interested in it, we have interactive drag and drop PBQs that replicate exactly what you're going to find on A+ Core 1. And as I've said before, we have a guide on our website for A+ Core 1 with every port number, every diagnostic tool's purpose, every little thing you need to memorize for the test is on here, as well as for the entire trifecta. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope it helped you guys out in your studies. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like on the video. We're going to be uploading more content every single week, so make sure that you subscribe and you stay updated and stay learning. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.